Hi guys. Sorry for the weirdness of the lighting. I've got my Christmas lights up. It's about 10 o'clock in the evening and the sun just set. Oh my gosh, it feels like it was just an hour ago, but it was around 8 o'clock, so about maybe 2.5 hours ago. So I was just thinking about something. I just saw the King of Random. Well, it wasn't the King of Random. It's now Nate from the internet. NFTI, I think is the name of his channel. And he just did a collaboration with what's his name? Guga? I don't remember his name. He's a guy who always is cooking meat. He's doing aged meat. He's doing different kinds of seasonings, salted meats and whatnot, and then cooks them in different ways. Cooking them in fat versus cooking them on a skillet, whatever, barbecue. He's just like, it's all about the meat. So Nate, formerly of the King of Random, is now Nate from the internet. And he and the State Guy just did a collab. And it was really cool. It was fun. Because Nate is more of like okay, what's the control? The control is the way that we cook it. And let's have 3 different things. So they introduced like bacon and Kobe beef and a kind of pork that is like the Kobe beef of pork, I guess. And then they cooked it in like a sugar, like when you see the is that even a phase again? Where you heat sugar to a certain temperature and you cook really well dried off fruit into that, and then you end up with like the crunchy fruit. It's like crunchy candy coating outside of normal fruit, and it creates a texture that people enjoy. Well, anyway, these guys did it with meat, and it made me remember that like in 2019 YouTube really got into some really fun collaborations between creators, especially creators who were like kind of on different ends of what YouTube has to offer, different niches, but they met together, and it felt fun as a person who maybe was a fan or a subscriber of both of these particular genres of these people getting together. Like, it was just like, I don't know. It feels like 2020 took that weird excitement for the random of YouTube away from us. And I've been seeing oh goodness, my brain. Josh from Mythical Kitchen, Good Mythical Morning. Around 2019, they created the Good Mythical Kitchen, or Mythical Kitchen. And so Josh, the guy who was coming up with all the weird food that they had on set, ended up creating his own channel where he does like, there's chaos is going on because he's like very much open about his ADHD type brain and how that is it. He was really interested in cooking, so he learned about cooking. Anyway, so he's been doing collabs with guys like the Try Guys, and I saw him somewhere else too. I could have sworn I saw him in a couple other spots, but it's really fun to again see all of these collaborations happening that they make sense, and it feels like there's old friends are meeting, or like people who I think of as my friends because I've been following them for half a decade or longer, meeting up with somebody else who I've known for half a decade or longer, and it's, I don't know, it's I'm really enjoying it, these collaborations again. And I know that in 2020 as an American, a US citizen, a lot of our world changed, and the way that we interacted with each other changed a lot. There was a lot of intense polarization that happened, and that's post a polarization that happened in 2000. It started in 2015, 16, 17. There was a lot going on in our country, so we've had a long time of upheaval. Just from 2020 until now, kids who were freshmen in high school, this is to the adults so you understand how much time this was. Freshmen in high school are now getting ready to graduate from high school. Like, an entire high school experience has happened, pretty much, since 2020, when the schools shut down changed. And to imagine, half of your first year of high school, just about, because everything's shut down in the US in March of 2020. And it was just after, what do they call them? Midterms. Right there at about that time. I think maybe the second semester was really just kicking off, and then everybody had to go home, and it was a struggle for a week, 2 weeks. We kind of preemptively, I know in my school district, started figuring out how school would work. They made sure that they had our technology department worked freaking overtime to try and get laptops, if not laptops, then tablets, to a lot of students starting high school level, junior high level, and then working through the grade schools. And we managed to come up with so much technology. And then when the countrywide shutdown started happening and the CDC was going crazy, we were able to get a lot of grants to get even more technology to hand out to people. But still, just like, can you imagine? I mean, I'm 42 now. I graduated in 1999. Like, I was 1995 is when I started my high school. 95, 96, 97, 98, 99 was the graduation. Yeah, sounds right. So, I mean, it's just crazy to think that, and in basically, okay, so I guess what I'm thinking of is that this is an opportunity for our society to really pick and choose what we let back in. And I think that there was some really amazing stuff was starting to happen. There was amazing collaborations. There was interesting data was happening. Like, I feel like the shutdowns, like, our video information went up a lot, even though we weren't meeting up with each other. Our ability to have technological hangouts versus in-person hangouts, a lot of stuff happened, and I'm grateful for that. But like, I'm really excited to be able to, without fear, hang out with people again. Go back to knitting groups, quilting groups. I don't know about everybody in the US, but where I live, we've got, I think there's like 3 or 4, maybe 5 Granges really close, based on different old settlement, not really towns. They didn't all become towns. Some of them have a church, my area, we don't have a church. Well, I guess we did have a church. And then in 2020, where I live, there was this big wildfire which evacuated my entire town in September of 2020. And where I live, the church in my neighborhood burnt down. I was not a member of that church. But the history from being a member of the church, sort of an attendant of the church down the way from me, they told me, these old folks, they said that I would have gone, where I live, I would have gone to school up where that church was. I wouldn't have gone to school where the Grange was. But, and then meeting up with those old timers, these people who were like not quite old enough to be my grandparents, they remember riding on, like, you hitch up the wagon and you load your produce that you have for the week onto the wagon, and then you drive the horses into town. So like a day, 20 miles a day of riding the horse into town. You drop your produce, your grain, your hay, whatever it is off. You get paid for that. And then you turn the horses around and you start riding them back. And that's a whole nother day. And if the money was good, whatever the product was didn't require multiple trips, they would stay the night in town and do shopping. Like, that's when you would buy your groceries, was because you went to Portland. So crazy. Anyway, old timers. And that was like 1920s. People were still living like that where I'm at. So 100 years ago. Only 2 generations. I get it. I'm 40. I should have like at least a teenage kid according to how society works. I could potentially have a almost 20-year-old kid now and not have been a crazy thing. Anyway, beyond that, 100 years, so that's like 4.5, 5 generations of people, and they were still driving horses with a wagon on the back of them. It's so weird. But like, there's these things that we could pull back into in our society. Maybe not driving horses on roadways, but this understanding that life doesn't have to be going club to club to club. It's okay if life is growing a garden, being stable enough to be home every day to feed and water chickens, having your poop in a group enough that when produce from your garden is ripe, you have the ability to process and preserve it. Like, I feel like I've spent so much time of my life, like, I've grown food, but I've also feel like I've wasted a lot of food because I wasn't able, like, I didn't have enough extra of me to be able to put food away. So, even just being able to blanch and freeze tomatoes to be able to make tomato sauce later, I did that. Oh gosh, I lived in Oregon City, so maybe 2014, 2015, I grew tomatoes and froze a bunch of them and made sauce with it as I needed it. I guess another thing in my brain, this is my brain thinking about like how much time has passed that the world really like changed directions. In the 2020 fires, we had a about 3 weeks of zero electricity. Everything in our freezers pretty much went bad. We had a generator. We would come in every day, turn the generator on, plug things in for the first part of our visit, and then plug something else in for the last part of our visit, and then leave as soon as the generator ran out of gas. And I still lost a freezer full of food, which that's not the hard part for me, the losing a freezer full of food. It's the fact that, like, I was really grateful that I had a job where I could have replaced that food. There's people in our community who probably couldn't replace. I think it was probably about $1,000 worth of food if you count all the different meats, the amount of pre-made foods, chili, soup, all this kind of stuff that I had made and frozen down there that I then ended up having to basically throw away because it all defrosted for over a week. Basically setting things in your refrigerator for a week, maybe warmer. Plus, there's all the stuff from my refrigerator that I had to decide what I could keep and what I had to get rid of. That was, man. I forgot about that. Yeah. So anyway, my thought process, or my thinking of making this video, was we're in a moment where we get to remake what we want the world to be, what we want our world to be. And I think now we've gained so much from the chaos times, and we really have to make a very intentional move towards what our community times were. Because we've got a whole new group of adults who didn't come into our community times. They came into our chaos times. So, take some time, I guess, maybe, and think about what kind of stuff you did before the chaos times that was interesting or fun or whatever. I remember when I first got out of the military in 2009, but it was around 2012 or so. A group of my friends and I, we would take turns through each other's houses, and we would have dinner at each other's houses once a week. The host would make the main dish. They would tell everybody what their main dish was going to be, and we all brought sides that would complement it. And a couple things that it did was, at least, once a month, or at least every 6 weeks or so, depending on how many groups of friends you had, once every 6 weeks, you would have a reason to really clean your house, because you were going to have people over that were going to use your bathroom, and these were friends. They were going to see that your refrigerator had a lot of stuff in it. You didn't have to purge your refrigerator, but it helped to wipe some of the handprints off the front of the refrigerator. The little things that annoy you, but you put off. I don't know. I remember being in a knitting group, And we didn't really do a project. We just kind of reported to each other what we were doing. And like if somebody had a problem or they struggled with knitting, somebody else could kind of tell them, oh yeah, this is how I think of it when I'm doing it, and this is how I remember to get it done, and everything turns out the right directions. You're knitting, crocheting, quilting groups. I don't know. My grandma was part of a card playing group. I have her old cribbage board from when she was a cribbage champion of some sorts. I don't know, what else did people do? Take turns showing up and cleaning each other's houses. You show up a couple weeks, like when your friend who is pregnant is nesting, everybody shows up in support and helps them finish whatever the pre-baby project is. Painting party, food prep party, whatever it is. I remember that kind of stuff was going on. I don't know. We just have an opportunity to rebuild our communities and our society how we want to see it. And it feels like a shame if we were to waste it, if that makes sense. Anyway, it's just a thinking. I hope everybody has a good summer. It finally has turned warm here. A couple days without rain. All our apples and our cherries are pretty much done, but our apples are in full bloom right now. Our blueberries have bloomed. Our gooseberries are starting to bloom. Blackberries and raspberries have not started blooming yet. It's only May. They usually bloom around late June, early July for August fruit. August, September fruit. So those are summer berries. But I don't know. I've been really enjoying watching the seasons happen and reminding myself that although I'm excited for the next part, we still have a month to go before that even starts. Keep looking out for what happens first. You can't have blackberries until you've had blackberry flowers. Usually blackberry flowers are deep into summer. Also, as a reminder, people who live near water in the north part of the U.S., just because it's 80, 90, 100 degrees where you're at, that river water is probably not so warm because it's mostly coming off of a glacier. Dip your toes before you jump in, because folks who just jump in oftentimes die. And don't be dead. Remind people it's okay to wade into the water before you jump, because that's how our grandparents stayed alive to create us. Anyway, have a good day, everybody. Happy May. Happy summer is here, just about. Happy graduation class of 2023. And happy Mom's Day for those who it applies to, by choice or because somebody adopted you as a parental figure. Yeah, family doesn't have to look any way. It can look all the ways. It's how you feel, not how you're connected. Anyway, have a good day.